All right, guys, welcome to the REimagined Podcast. We are here today with my good friends Abel and Jason. This is a story that is very close to my heart. As the audience knows, I'm in real estate and real estate investing and have built an extensive real estate rental portfolio, which then becomes heart-filled with the story that you guys are about to hear. My good friends are here on behalf of the Fresno State Project Rebound. And I'm going to let Jason kick us off on what is Fresno State Project Rebound.
All right. Well, thank you, Nico. So we are in 19 of the 22 CSU campuses, and Project Rebound supports men and women who are interested in furthering their education after having an experience in a carceral setting. So what's a carceral setting? It would be juvenile hall, prison, jail, where they've had an impact in the justice system. And we provide wraparound services like transportation assistance, parking passes, help with tuition assistance, financial aid, textbooks, and soon we're also going to be talking a bit about the housing initiative that Fresno State has worked with us to be able to bless us with.
Awesome. Just real quickly for the audience, in really simplistic terms, right? Because those are a lot of big terms that obviously you're the head honcho there running the program. So they get out of jail, prison, and they've been identified by the state that they had good behaviors and credibility to come and get into schooling through this one, Fresno State, and go to school.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that is right now in the prison and the jails, there are a lot of college education programs.
Got it. Okay, so there's within.
And that's where it begins.
Okay.
Then when they parole, they have the choice, or probation, have the choice to either continue their education through the community college, or if they've been fortunate enough to earn enough credits to be able to attend a state university.
So in this case,
apply.
they got enough credits to apply. Awesome.
Yeah, and the main thing is that, Proposition 57, which amended the California Constitution, Section 32, gave incentive to nonviolent offenders to use college credits, vocational credits, self-help credits, hours in order to get out early. That's what happened to me. I was sentenced to 26 years in 2018. My release date was 2034.
Wow.
I got released in 2022.
4 years.
4 years.
Wow.
For almost five and a half I did
altogether,
because I got arrested in 2017.
Got it.
But so, giving that incentive, it really, I was working, at first it was extrinsic, I wanted a certificate. I wanted to knock time off of my sentence. But as I was programming and programming is, doing what you're supposed to do,
Right.
Go to school, go to work, self-help, college, and I did that. I did it 16-hour days for almost 5 years.
Wow.
And so I worked hard, but one of the main things is as I was doing this, I was figuring something out, that this prison that I lived in all of my life, I grew up in a domestic house, a house with domestic violence, drugs. So the freedom that I found in prison was when I started figuring out who I was.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Let's pause there real quick, Abel, if you don't mind me
Yes.
asking. You said freedom that you found in prison.
It's one of the paradoxes that I found out by I when I got arrested, Prop 57 was voted in by voters in 2016. I had barely came in, so I was one of the first ones, and so I could get out early. My base term was 3 years, so at 2020 I started going to parole, and so I got denied twice, and I started figuring out, well, what am I doing wrong?
And you're figuring this all out on your own.
All on my own. So I got a job at the law library, learned about law, and read a lot about law.
Yeah, you seem very educated.
It was. I'm telling you, I was towards the end of my incarceration. I was so happy because I had not figured it out, but at least got a glimpse of some hope.
Right. So that freedom almost allowed you to have clarity in the direction you wanted to move forward.
Yes. So one of the things is, like, I was an ex-gang member. I sold drugs. I consumed drugs. I was violent. Anything that had to do antisocial, I was involved.
Yeah.
I thought that was the way life was supposed to be.
Right.
I grew up in a house with domestic violence.
You were surrounded around it.
I seen it. I would leave my house and then go in my neighborhood, and then
Still there.
compounded trauma, layers of it. And so one of my major moves in my self-help class is called a class called Guiding Rage into Power. And this class has based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And it was an 8-hour-long class. So that you were chosen. Like if you were really dedicated and they seen that you were, I was usually on a week, I would have on average between 6 to 10 self-help classes.
Wow.
So that's on top of my.
You were putting in the work.
Yeah, and I was doing dog training. So that's another class, another way that I gave back that really opened up my eyes when we were training dogs for veterans that were coming back from Iraq,
Wow.
and they couldn't get out of their homes. So we'd make these buffer dogs that would make it possible for these veterans to go out in public. And I remember getting these letters, and it tears me up just thinking about it.
I bet.
And I was just like, this guy's like, oh, he was a veteran from Iraq. There was an IDE that went off. And so anytime anybody got next to him, he would just get triggered.
Wow.
So when it was a black Labrador, it was
Yeah.
a golden, what was it called? Golden Doodle.
Right. Do you think that hit home to you so much just because of the traumas that dog went through?
Yes.
To connect it to yours?
So when I was like 3-4 years in my incarceration when I joined, which is Paws for Life.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
the program.
Yeah.
It's out of Santa Monica, and it's in like I think 3-4 prisons. And so once I started learning this, and I was taking other classes, this is where all this freedom started coming, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm training dogs, I'm doing Braille transcription,
Yeah.
teaching prisoners that are blind or going blind so they could communicate with their families.
Wow.
So, we're doing this, and then I'm starting to learn about my my ACE events. What's an ACE event?
Yeah.
Right? It's a study that was done in the 90s when adverse childhood experience.
Yeah.
So I'm learning all this stuff, and then I'm applying, and I'm seeing it, and connecting all these dots, right, and understanding that my belief system that I had been living all my life had been corrupt.
Right.
Had
All the
been
habits
wrong.
too.
Yes. Yeah, and habits, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember reading in a book. I forgot the name of the book. We don't.
Atomic Habits, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
It might be Atomic.
That's a good one.
It says we don't predict. We can't make our future. We make our habits, and our habits make our future.
Right.
And so throughout my incarceration, I did read a lot of books, and all this stuff just came in together, right? And
Yeah.
and going back to that grip class, and I remember starting that class, and they go, "We're going to name our group," and so they went around there was 35 of us. I still remember exactly. They go, "I want to ask the facilitator asked, I want to ask all individually how much time you guys done." And he went by, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, two guys.
Wow.
He's writing them on the whiteboard, and he gets to me. I'm the least. I'm down to like 4.5 years,
Yeah.
I think. And then, puts all the numbers, and he starts doing this arithmetic, and then 858 years, 35 people.
Wow.
And it just blew our minds. We're just like almost 1,000 years accumulated in that room. And he goes, now we're going to go around the room and ask, how long did it take for you to commit your crime? 2 seconds, 3 seconds, a minute, half a minute, 45 seconds,
Wow.
3.5 minutes equaled almost 1,000 years.
So that one action within the minutes, periods of time resulted in 1,000 years.
1,000 years. So that's what it basically that says, that we learn these behaviors and our body becomes a brain. Right?
Yeah.
And so cognitive behavioral therapy, by thinking of your thoughts and your sensations and your emotions, you start controlling, and then your mind starts becoming the
Wow.
boss again. So that was a major class for me. Where
Wow, super fascinating.
yes, and then you start understanding, self-awareness. Once you start understanding who you are, then you can actually start working on yourselves.
Yeah.
On myself, and
Well,
yeah.
That's incredible. You're probably, and I'm getting more and more educated, our relationship and partnership with Fresno State Project Rebound has been about 2 years now. We have up to 3 houses now. And we'll get into that later. Yeah. But what I'm saying in your regards, Abel, is you go through that. You're the anomaly who really invested. I mean, you can tell by just the quick stories how invested you were to make a change. And you get out in 2022 and go into Project Rebound. Can you speak about that a little bit, about how you called it a housing initiative there, Jason? You want to touch on that? So
absolutely. When you're in prison, you really have every reason to get in. There's drugs and alcohol. I mean, there's crime.
Still in.
Yes.
Wow.
So you got every reason
And you made a choice to change like right away, or did that happen?
Yes, it was. I was as soon as I knew I was going to do this much time, and I was doing the math. I go, I'm going to be 60 something. I'm 48. I go at the time when I was incarcerated, arrested, I was 41. So I go, I'm doing the math. I'll be out at 60 something.
Right.
I go, and I remember I'm reading about Albert Einstein saying that you cannot be in a state of mind at the time that you created the problem.
Yep.
I remember reading that, and I was just like, I cannot think the way I was thinking.
Right.
So and then
something needs to change.
Something's and then I had read a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Stephen Covey.
Yes, and
It's
it
a great
talked
book.
about making decisions on principles instead of emotions, and that's where it really started solidifying.
So you got to change your principles.
My principles and challenging my belief system. That's another thing. What do I believe, right? Because if I sit in this chair and it falls, if I go out every other chair, I'm going to start looking at it. My belief system just done changed, right? Because of that experience.
Right.
So my past experience, I made a lot of
So how do you recreate that?
So by
It's so fascinating for me.
challenging them, like really like understanding, because it's subconscious, right? The subconscious is 95%, the conscious is 5%,
Yeah.
and it's basically you got a strong arm with a weak arm, right? And not until you start like challenging, do I believe in violence? See, now I know that alcohol is poison.
Right.
At the time before, I thought it was a way to relax.
Right.
I thought a joint was a way to have a good time.
Want to know the sad part? Not only within the, call it, past of being born in that, I would say the general public is almost as confused as being in a bad environment or being in a, system where that's the norm. It's sad, wouldn't you think, based on your research, that, I mean, take just a business executive, you watch these movies, right? The first thing they go home and do from a stressful day, pour a little scotch and drink a little drink, right? And it's sad to think that that's what we're teaching.
Yes, and it's
not how to deal with it, how to drown it.
And so one of the things that I read, it was called Dopamine Nation. I forgot the name of the author, but it talks about that in our mind we have a reward and pain center. And so when you chase the pleasure, automatically homeostasis, your brain tries to level it with pain. That's why when you're drinking, the next day you have a hangover because your brain is trying to level it.
It's not stabilized.
So what it basically said in this book, that chase the pain first. So now I work out, I read, I study. Those are all painful.
Right.
But then once it levels out with the pleasure, it's a healthy pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? Now I know that, hey, you know what? Instead of drinking or smoking weed or doing a line to work hard, now I work out.
Yeah.
I eat right. I sleep good. I'm aware of my thoughts.
Yeah, you created different principles, different habits.
Absolutely.
And then you started practicing them. So it sounded like you really put in a lot of work, into that from 2018 to 2022. We're in 2024 now. So what does the last 2 years look like within the housing program?
Oh yes, that's and that's just so amazing because I wasn't expecting to get out, and I remember it was September 16 of 2022, and I come in from work. I'm getting ready to go to school, and the CO goes, "Hey, Abel Rivera, don't move. Your counselor's looking for you." I'm like, "What? Oh, what's going on? Am I in trouble? I don't do anything." I'm like, "Just don't move. He's been looking for you." I was at work. He could have found me at work. So I'm waiting, and next he's coming in. He has his glasses on. He's looking at this paper, walking in, concentrating, full attention.
You're like, "Oh man, what I do now?"
And he looks at me. He looks at the paper. He goes, "Rivera, come here." I go, "Mr. Timms, yes sir. What's going on?" He goes, "Rivera, you're going home." I go, "What?" I'm like, dude, immediately my brain just the tears started coming out, right? And I go, "What?" He goes, "What's your CDCR number?" I go, BH1587. He goes, "Yeah, you're going home. You're going to be on the streets in 60 days. I'm like, right away,
So were those tears fear, excitement? I mean, it looked like, it seems like you put in all that work, right, during that time, but did you feel like you were ready for the next step? This is probably where Project Rebound comes in.
You're way beyond. He's going through a physiological reaction at this moment. Because he is hearing something that he cannot believe.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm going home.
And the thing is that taking these self-help classes, I learned to take this mask that I've been wearing all my life, right?
Wow.
Because I had this mask of toughness. I don't cry. I'm not no sissy. And I was able to take this mask off and show who I really am.
You accepted your true self.
Yes. And once I did this, I never cried so much in my life because I had pent up for so many decades.
Yeah.
holding back these tears. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm a human being.
Right.
Right. And so when that happened, I just remember I told one of my his name was Timothy Malone. He was one of my mentors. I'll never forget that guy. And I in another book I read that you could tell your kids what to do and they'll never listen to you, but what you do, they will mimic you. And it's true, right? That action, that body language, it's and he was one person that I followed, and he was a lifer that he committed a murder, and he also got out a couple months after me.
Wow.
So everywhere we worked, the dog program, blind project, he got me into. I was going to start facilitating, teaching men on how to treat women and toxic masculinity and Mr. BS, the male role model belief system that we live by. And that's where I learned about like drugs with self-violence, permissible violence in boxing and football. Stuff that we take like it's normal, right? But it's really not. It's this patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
Of that it's starting to, as we get trauma informed and understanding that, there's a Chinese proverb that says that we're all children of our past and
Right.
parents of our future. What happens to us is what happens in the future. And so back to the story where he tells me this, and I'm just like, wow, I couldn't even concentrate. And I remember I was doing accounting 4A. I am at Fresno State. That's my major, business administration with accounting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I remember we're doing these journal entries, and I couldn't even concentrate. And so I made a decision. I go, you know what? Because during the time of my incarceration, when I was working at a library, I found out about Project Rebound. And so I seen the address, and I wrote them a letter. I go, hey,
Where'd you see it? Just
in the library.
Oh, wow.
It was
just hanging up there?
Yes. And so I wrote them a letter, and I remember one of the student advisors sent me a letter, and they go, oh, you need to get your 60 units and your golden 4. Bam. And this was like early in my incarceration, about 2019, where I started like, okay, now I have a goal.
So you prep for it.
Yes, and so now I'm trying. But the only thing that it's still getting better, the education part in prison, because at the time when I was there was only 8 classes. You can only get 8 classes. Now we got hundreds of classes that I can teach.
That's amazing.
There's theater, there's art,
Wow.
there's psychology, sociology.
But there's very limited amount, especially for business. It's more geared to psychology because a lot of people want to get into sociology. But if you're in a STEM major, it's very difficult to get these classes in prison. In California Department of Rehabilitation. So as soon as my counselor did that, I wrote my parole, because there was a guy named Michael Santos that would do these packets for self-help class, and he's a businessman. He came out of prison, became a millionaire, got in real estate, and he would teach inmates to prepare for reentry. Right. And I remember him saying, as soon as you find out you're going home, write your parole officer. And that's what I did. I sat down and I wrote my parole officer a letter. I wrote him, this is my plan.
Yeah.
And I sent it off to him. And so, the day comes, 60 days comes up, and it's November 14th. I go, finally, I'm going to get a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
Because, it's prison. I mean, the food in there, it's well, let me see.
Not good.
let me think. Okay, so most of the time, people will literally dump their trays. Maybe 3 times out of the week,
wow,
they'll just dump their trays, and you'll stand in line and you're looking, and you just see person after person dumping a tray, and you're like, wow, I'm gonna have to make a soup.
Yeah.
Before we continue, are you an attorney, CPA, financial advisor, or business professional looking to advise your client on any real estate needs? Visit REimagined.com as your main resource for expert insights and practical tips on anything real estate related. Whether you handle probates, trust administration, rental portfolio, or similar matters, REimagined.com has everything you need to succeed in the world of real estate. Visit today, hear about our one-of-a-kind offer, and see how we can best service your clients' needs.
That's ingenuity, and there's you see people come up with some ideas, right? That's another story, but. So,
if you want to have cuisine 101, that's another.
yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everyone has their recipe.
So 2014, I get out, and then my parole officer, I go to the parole office, and then my parole officer, I get there, he tells me, I just got out. He goes, oh, I got your letter. He goes, and thank you. He goes, thank you. Nobody's ever done that. I go, well, I did my homework in there.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I appreciate that. I'm going to put that in your file. And then so he goes, so I'm thinking I was going to go to my mom's house. And he goes, oh, no, I need you to do a 6-month program, which is called West Care. and you're going to do 3 months inpatient where you can't come out. You could get permission. They'll drive you to school or drive you to a dentist or something, but they'll bring you right back. And then 3 months outpatient. And I'm like, man, I did all this work, right? And I'm like, now I got to do more. But you know what? It's all about attitude, right? Okay. Right. And I started thinking, that's when I started thinking of my thoughts, and, cognitive behavioral therapy kicked in. And I go, you know what? I'm going to reinforce whatever I learned in there, right? And definitely, not only did I reinforce, but I learned other tools. Because, when I got locked up, when I was arrested, I had a toolbox, and all I had was a hammer. Everything in my life, I would just break.
Yeah.
Relationships, jobs. I mean, you name it, I broke it. Because that's all I had.
Right.
Was a hammer.
Right. Well, you thought. Sound like you figured out how to change that mindset of
yes, and through taking these self-help
equip yourself
classes,
with other tools.
Yeah, now I have Q-tip. Quit taking it personal.
Yeah.
Belly breathing.
Belly breathing. SETA, which is sensations, emotion, thoughts, and action. Yeah. I got a handful of them. I just can't right now.
That's
kind of
amazing.
Nervous, the breathing exercise. Stop and observe and process. ID moment.
The light switch.
Oh yeah, that's Gogi. I only did that for a couple months. Okay. I did grip a lot, and the grip ID moment, because triggers, right?
Yeah,
triggers are so important. The psychological triggers.
Was this through or even after? So you're still your West Care for how many? They said 3 months.
6 months. So 3 months inpatient, 3 months outpatient.
Okay.
And so what happened is that I did the 3 months, and every day we had to do 4 hours of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Got it.
And so once they did that, 90 days, I got my certificate. And then they sent me to, it's called Bulldog Lane, right by Fresno State. And so while I was doing that, I remember we were able to have a phone. I went to Rising Scholars, which is the sister program for Project Rebound at Fresno City College. So once I got my transcripts, I needed one class. So I go there, and Hugo Olagi does my transcripts, and he works for previously incarcerated students, and he does my transcripts, and he goes, you just need one more class. You just need a communication 2 or 1, 2 or 3. And so he sends me to Project Rebound. I go talk to Arnold, Victoria Rocha, who was another bridge, because these are a lot of people that I've met, such as yourself, Nico, because you're behind the scenes, right?
Do you think most people would give up? It sounds like you had to go through so many steps to make it there. Yes. And maybe that's built out for that reason of they want the people who are going to make the effort, Jason. But man,
the connections are becoming stronger and stronger.
Okay.
As the focus on rehabilitation and the successes of what it achieves is being well known.
Got it.
So it's much more now, since, as Abel was referring to, Prop 57 passed.
Yeah.
And
I'm just really impressed by Abel's desire.
He's a fantastic individual.
Man.
A fantastic individual.
And then the grit you develop in there. One of the same things one of the things that I concentrated was my family, because I remember that's tough.
Yeah.
Being away from your family. And then my dad was 84. Am I gonna? That was my
see him again. Yeah.
Because I remember they asked, one of my self-help class asked me, "Who are you, Abel?" And I'm like, "Oh well, I'm the system is crooked or whatnot." But in reality, that's all blaming everybody.
Yeah.
That's when you're what is it called? When you
I think I know the term you're looking for.
Oh, locus of control.
Yeah.
External locus of control is when you're blaming everybody.
Right.
So once I learned about that concept, hey, I'm in charge of I'm responsible. Once I took that personal responsibility and said, you know what, I committed my crime. My crime was domestic violence. I assaulted my girlfriend.
Right.
And a real quick story, it was 3 years for the actual crime, and then I made 5 phone calls where I tried to dissuade her, not knowing. And I thought, hey, I just called her. I didn't threaten her.
Right.
But in reality, I was breaking the law.
Wow.
And it goes back to my belief system that, hey, always trying to manipulate and trying to take advantage or whatnot. But once I started realizing, I broke the law. And once I started taking that accountability and responsibility, that's another part of my freedom.
Wow.
I did this, right?
You owned it.
I owned it. I built this prison with my own 2 hands.
That's so brave. Yeah.
Right? But I want to go back to the story.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and that's so exactly what I did, because I'll tell you, because penal code is it has 100 different enhancements. So that's why people in California get so much time. And Prop 57 kind of mitigates that, right? Because I've seen people there with 400, 500-year sentences. And you're
because of like certain codes and
there's certain codes. Like for mine, these phone calls that I made were something it's called 117015 that they stack them. So I'm a sack and striker, 3 years, and then I made 5 phone calls, 2 years each
for each phone call.
And they separate consecutive. So it's 13 years. Sack and strike, 26 years.
Wow.
So that's how California has all these different dynamics and tools that the district attorney uses to give these extreme.
Yeah. You know what I respect the most about you, Abel, is that just in the quick story is like you already taught. You're teaching me so much, and I'm so thankful for it. But you can sit there and blame this system that you can say is flawed and not fair. You owned it.
The accountability of our student population really is fantastic, because if you don't take accountability, if you look externally, like Abel was referring to, the people that do things to then get off of their goals, they're not successful. And that's the difference between what I'm seeing in the students that we are getting now coming into Fresno State and who want to be part of our housing initiative, is they want to take control, and by doing that it's by acknowledging what they've done to get to where they are and how they want to move forward. And that's really what I think is what you'll hear in a lot of our population as you get to know us more and more.
Very cool.
And Dr. Brene Brown said that, shame is like a mushroom, only grows in the dark. Not only do you start bringing that shame out and you start purging that, the worst thing that you hide is when you start healing.
Right.
And prison was a healing process for me. And so now back to the story, as I'm in West Care and going to Rising Scholars, I was on the phone and I did my transcripts, and it took me like 3 hours, trying to do all these, as Cal State applied, which is the application for Fresno State. And I go, you know what, I'm going to try it. I tried it and send everything in, and then I remember I was in line for chow there at West Care. I had about maybe 3 weeks so I could go out to the outpatient, and I get an email from Fresno State, and they go, "You're conditionally admitted." I'm like, "What the? Who?"
Yeah, how this happen?
I mean, this is just something so. And then again, here comes the tears, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'm vulnerable. I'm okay with that. I'm man enough to say that, hey, I could cry, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? And it cleans me, right? It just cleans me, because so much pain that I've had in my life, the pain that I've inflicted and whatnot. But I remember reading this that says, and I'm just like, wow, and I'm just like blown away, and I'm like, okay, so I came out of California Department of Rehabilitation. I got out 12 years early, and now I'm going to Fresno State, and I'm going from one institution to another institution. And I remember calling my mom, and she was just like, what? Yes, and so that was another time where I was just like, okay, so I'm on parole. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to go to Bulldog Lane, which is an outpatient where you can leave early in the morning, go to school or whatnot, and come back and spend the night. And that was another 3 months. So you're doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, okay, once this is over, where am I going to go? The penal code is enforced in certain zip codes, right? That's just the way it is. I remember reading an article about that. Certain zip codes, the penal codes enforced more than other zip codes. So it's not really genetics or genetic code or
zip codes.
It's the zip code. It's a zip code you go. So I'm thinking like, where am I going to go? I'm going to go back to my old neighborhood where I have the same triggers, the same places, the same people, the same things that I've been doing for the last 20-something years. And it's scary. You're like, the recidivism rate is at 67%. So the odds are against me, right? So I'm just like,
is that still the percentage right now?
I believe so.
It's a bit better because of what's been happening with some of the reentry, and also some people aren't getting sentenced to prison. They're doing all their time in jail.
Got it.
So it has increased with these programs, but I mean, it's certainly, the odds are not in your favor.
Let's take a quick break for those who are looking to buy or sell luxury properties. Look no further than GentileRealEstate.com. With our expertise and exclusive listings, Gentile Real Estate is your trusted partner in luxury real estate transaction. Visit our website today to explore our portfolio of exquisite properties and experience luxury living at its finest.
So you look at this and you're just like, and I'm like, okay, so where am I going to go? And I remember I had barely got out, and it was in May. I went back to my old neighborhood, and so I dropped out of my gang that I was in. So one of the things that I was a Bulldog member, and to become a Fresno State Bulldog, it's some. I remember being ashamed of wearing it. Like I wore it for the wrong reasons for so many years.
Yeah,
that was tough. But that's.
So what made you, or how did you overcome not going back there?
So one of the things is when I seen, so it was so odd because I was I knew I was a student now. I was a parolee student, and somebody from the West Care had heard that there was a housing for Fresno State Bulldog students, and you remember his name was I think it was Tim. And he goes, hey, aren't you a student at Fresno State? I go, yeah. He goes, hey, they got a housing now for people that are students from Fresno State that you could live there. And I'm like, what? So he goes, yeah, this is her number. And so it was another program called Warm Handoff.
Huh.
And so I called her Judy,
mm-hmm.
and she gives me.
Well, what happened, you may not know this, but what happens is once every month, the parole department has something called a PAC meeting, which is the community of the parole and community team. It's all of the different community partners that come together for us to share what we're doing when you're recently paroled.
Yeah.
It was my first one. I went there. I was asked to represent our brand new housing initiative. I had just been hired at Fresno State. We had just got this amazing grant, and we were one of only 3 Project Rebounds in the entire state that received it, with great work from Dr. Hughes and Jennifer Leahy, our program director and executive director. And we showed up, I did his presentation, and at the end of it, Judy comes running over, I have to talk to you, don't leave. And so I was, okay, so it was all, packing up and all that. And she said, I have a client who is probably perfect for your program, and he's just finishing the outpatient. Can I give him your number? Of course, you don't have to ask me twice.
Yeah.
And I got this semi-reserved, not quite sure voice on the end of the line asking about the program, calling me sir, and I kept telling him, no, you don't have to call me sir. You remember that?
Yes.
Let's work together. And we talked several times. We met at the Starbucks down by Manchester Mall, was it?
No, by Fresno City.
By Fresno City.
Yeah, because I was going to school there at the time.
And I just started talking. And we started working, and I started seeing this amazing individual who has everything that we're looking for in our program. And in several weeks.
Yeah. So Abel, that's so powerful. You identified, I'm not going back to the old triggers. I'm not going back to that environment. I'm gonna find another route, and by God willing, you made the stars align, and you found the housing initiative. So what year was that?
That was
almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago. Oh, wow. Yeah, it was just recently. It was in May of last year, so maybe 9 months ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember I was just like, wow, okay. Now I could get out of my old neighborhood, right? Because I have certain enemies in there that just don't like me because of what I did, right? Because it's dangerous. And then things go in my mind. Are they going to kill me? And I remember my family being afraid, It's like, are they gonna shoot up the house?
Yeah.
And so I had to get out of there,
Yeah.
So this was the way to get out of that neighborhood. And still to this day, they know that I'm on a whole different path now.
Right.
So most of the guys are respecting me. That, hey, you know what? You're not faking it. You changed. Because if I'm gonna say that I'm going this route and then I go back that route, then I'm in trouble.
Right.
Right. But now they see, and most guys, most guys, old neighborhood friends. I went from knowing guys like Trigger or Spider or Capper to Dr. Hughes, Dr. Berber, and it's just like the vocabulary, it changed, right?
Yeah.
It changed everything. And then so
your influence has changed.
So, yes, and so they know that. So most guys respect me now, and I was a peer mentor. I'm not working there no more, but at Fresno City I worked there as a peer mentor because they seen that I was really serious, and they hired me. So I went to PAC units, and for the last 6 months I would go to the PAC units and speak to parolees, and I would use the like analogy of checkers and chess. Say, you know what, without education, you're playing checkers.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, come on, step your game up, come to school, and let's start playing chess. Because chess is all about decisions, right? Let's think about
Strategy.
6-7 steps ahead of the time. Because if you're not thinking like that, then you're bound to lose, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And ignorance is education is expensive, but ignorance is even more expensive, right? And I would speak to these parolees coming out, and I was in your chair. I was in your chair 6 months ago, wondering, what am I going to do?
Right.
I can choose my choices, but I can't choose my consequences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would tell them, make your decision now. You can pick a 9-month certificate or a PhD.
Yeah.
I mean, sky's the limit, and it all comes down to your belief system. What do you believe in?
Right.
And I would speak, these guys would come up to me and like, hey, I got out 12 years early, man. Like, come on, this is the key. Hugo, what's the activist's name? He did the Les Miserables, and he says,
Oh, yeah.
he, and it was a quote that stuck with me. He says, he who opens the door of a school closes a prison, right? And it's so true. I lived that. And I
So you knew education was going to be the path to that better life.
Yes, and it was a freedom, right? I started understanding. I read psychology, I read poetry, literature, law, statutory interpretation. And so I have all my books that I read, and I remember my first books, like I got them all written.
Yeah.
And I knew what part of the system, of the criminal justice system I was, from county to Wasco to Vacaville. And you can see how my change in genre just changed. At the beginning, I was the first 50 books, 25 books was like crime, westerns, suspense, James Patterson. And then as I went through the process, I kept reading. It went to like self-help books and then literature.
Yeah, so just kept it developing.
And I remember at the library, it was called The Great Books of the Western World, and it's a 66 volume, and it has the whole collection from the classical philosophers, Stoic philosophers, to the modern philosophers. And I remember they were going to throw them away, and I was like, hey, can I have these?
Yeah.
They're like, yes, just take off the hardcover because you can't have anything. Any book with a hardcover because of security. People can make weapons out of it. And I remember taking off the hardcovers and taking them back to my cell 3-4 at a time. Before I had the whole collection in my cell, and I remember opening the first book, and it came with a 10-year reading plan.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow! I finally hit the mother
jackpot.
This is it. And this is where my, I think it was Mark Twain says, don't let education get in the way of your schooling, right? Because in reality, education is everywhere. If you're making a cake, or if you're building a drone or whatever it is, you need to educate yourself on it.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So once I figured that out, I was hungry for knowledge, right? And wisdom, how to use that, right? Because knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad, right? And so
I haven't heard that one, man. That's a good one.
So all this stuff I learned so much, right? And it's just like, and the main thing is that I don't know anything, right? The more I know, the more I learn, the more I know nothing,
Right.
And I got to be empty, right?
Wow.
I got to be empty. Every single person I learn from, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't care if it's a little kid or to
Jeez,
an
you're
older
so wise,
person.
Abel.
I am learning from them.
So
right?
wise, man.
And so
what is this year? Because it sounded like that transition was about a year ago. Well, describe the last year within now. Now you're settled within Project Rebound. The first house is our flagship house,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, we call
And
it Sierra House.
Sierra House.
Abel always shares this story, which I really like. Why the Sierra House is something that's special.
Oh yeah, and
Wow.
so as I come out back to the story, we
Yeah,
get back,
yeah.
and I get to the Sierra House, and I look at my room, and I look at my closet, and I'm like, dude, that closet's bigger than my cell. You go in there, they keep you like an animal, right?
Wow.
And so you become an animal, and if you're a victim of your circumstances, then you become an animal. So you got to go in instead of out, right? And I remember looking at that closet, and I go, this is the same size as the cell that I lived for about maybe almost 4 years.
Wow.
And so
For your viewers, I want you to understand, we're having our housing as single occupancy. So whereas a lot of the other programs have roommates or pods,
Okay. Yeah.
Abel will get his own room with his own space.
Got it. And that's why prior to you moving in, Jason and I, actually this was Jason mid-interception, more on the second house than the first house, but we turned that bedroom or house, excuse me. So I purchased the home, completely gutted it, and we turned it into a six bedroom
3.5 bath.
Yeah. So
with a
they're
pool.
large rooms, nice pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I just remember just like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to state. I'm working at Rising Scholars. You know, I'm a pro-social person in a pro-social environment, and actually feeling human for the first time in my life. And so I'm there, and I'm like, okay, and, you know, I had summer school, and I continued with my education, and you know, I can maintain between 3.5 to 3.8. I'm not a straight A student, but if you look at my old transcripts,
He's also taking accounting and some heavy math.
Jeez.
So I'm doing that, and I'm just like, I remember going swimming, right? And I was swimming, and I was just like looking back, and I see the palm tree, and it's just like, it's so surreal, you know. I'm like, dude, 9 months ago, I was on a bunk in California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and now I'm a student at Fresno State, floating backwards in a pool, and it's just like the gratitude, right? Things that I used to take for granted, and you know, all this, the school, the education, the support, such as your Gentile company and Project Rebound. The penal code is tough on crime. You know, organizations such as yourself is tough on the causes of crime, right? Because, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The physiological of having a roof over your head and water and food.
Yeah.
And then having the basic needs of clothing.
Right.
And then belonging, friendship and love. And then
Self-actualization.
it brings up the self-esteem, right? And I remember in my marketing class, I was talking to my professor, Professor Arkelian, and I was confused at the time with self-confidence and self-esteem. And he goes, no, that's two different things. He goes, as a matter of fact, I want you to read a book. And I'm like, book? Right away, I pull out my paper. I'm ready. And he's all like, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. He goes, just read the first 3 chapters. And so I did. And I read it, and that's where I learned about self-efficacy and self-realization of really believing in myself. Self-confidence is just like pumping, you know, but really saying, you know what, I believe in my abilities. And so...
And to pause you real quick, even when the odds are against you, which I just want to pause on, one, you appreciating, you know, Project Rebound and our organization.
Yes.
Thank you.
For being just a tool on your tool belt to go your journey that you're on. It was really interesting when I think, Jason, you were involved at this time, but it was mainly when I was talking to Dr. Hughes, and I have to mention Debbie Yaystone because she was a large component in it.
Absolutely. We are not alone on this. We have so many partners in Fresno State and the community at large.
Yeah.
So we cannot have been successful and continue to work as we have without those partnerships.
All the people involved. Yeah,
Oh,
it
my
was...
goodness, absolutely.
Man, it's the efforts that you individually went through, the groups all went through. You take and you think about all those challenges, right, that you had to go through and the organizations had to go through to put this together. And then you have a plan and you go to try to execute the plan. Think of this. And they go landlord to landlord, like myself, to find the shelter to help these individuals build their self-esteem that we're talking about, and they get judged so hard with constant no's. And it was heartbreaking, and I actually wasn't even poached with, hey, we have this project, we need housing, we're getting told no. It was, hey, do you have any rentals near Fresno State, or any houses near Fresno State? And we were like, yeah, I mean, what are you guys thinking? And then they told us, and it was an instant, like, not even, you know, I'm looking at producer Matt because he was on the line when they called. Oh. It was an instant, yeah, we'd love to support that, right? And it just, I don't know what it was. There was zero judgment in it, and it's really bothers me how much judgment is within that.
Well, and I'm also still bringing you other community partners that are looking for a space as well. Mm-hmm. And we were able to help support them too.
Yeah.
As part of my housing initiative, I also don't only house the students that are part of our program that want to live in our homes. We also have students who have different needs that can't live in our homes.
Right, there's others.
That we also want to help house. That's part of my job, is to have housing for all of our 115 students.
Yeah.
And it changes every year as we grow. And so I am facing those kinds of struggles with
Yeah.
landlords. So what we did is I created a housing cooperative or a consortium where we have a bunch of community partners who can help us
Right.
when we need to. So I have people reaching out to me, hey, I have this organization that need help. I have this guy that
Yeah.
needs help, and we plug them in or her in so that we can have that support.
Right.
What's difficult is a lot of our population or a lot of our students come out with credit history problems or no history, or maybe living in a life prior to this where they had not been the best tenants,
Right.
or they don't have that initial seed money to get the security
Yeah.
deposit. And that's why this program is so good, because we allow to start forward. From
Right.
today forward, we're with you. We're going to walk with you to help you to be supported.
Yeah.
And I do want to say one thing too, in hearing all of what Abel's sharing and the questions, is it's also really important for us as people who are supporting the formerly incarcerated students to also remember the people that were harmed, right?
Right.
So-
That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important for us to remember that there are two sides to all these stories, is that we also have to have the accountability for the person who has committed that harm. And that's something that we work a lot. We have workshops in our house. We also have people who are available for, counseling and a lot of the behavioral health side of things. It's not just about providing a roof. It's also about teaching
Yeah.
what sustainable
under that
living
roof.
looks, and
Yes.
also what sustainable
Yeah.
living looks
That's
like.
that chess thing. It's
Right.
not about
Yes,
just going
yes, right forward.
It's about figuring all the plan out, all the 6-7 steps
Right.
ahead.
And so, like, if you have struggles of not having ever owned a home or even had a home, what does that look like?
Mhm.
What does it look like to have a bill every month and not have me barking at everybody about turning the lights
Right.
off?
I think the reason I brought it up mainly to pause on the self-esteem and the build-up and what you're describing as acknowledging there's two sides to every story and there's
Yes.
multiple components to every situation, right?
Mhm.
Is without the environments that you guys are providing, people can't make that change to recognize that and to get better.
Absolutely.
You thought your odds were to go back in your old environment,
Yes.
and who would have known that the odds again are already against you? You add those odds on top of it. You said a mind-blowing stat, 67%
Yeah.
against you. You add the old environment in. I wonder what that statistic would look like.
Yes, and another thing with accountability is take the taxpayers. It's 100,000. If you have no health problems, it's costing taxpayers $100,000 a year.
It just came out. It's $107,000 per person
So-
to house.
So the accountability.
Yeah.
So the accountability of the taxpayers that pay this astronomical amount. Harvard and Yale.
Yeah.
We already know how much 75, 80. That's Stanford, and so we think about that. It's like. So each time, once I started thinking of that, each action that I was doing in an illegal sense, I was taking money out of schools and sending them to prisons. And you start thinking, it's just like, no,
You're not going to support
no
that.
more. I'm
Yeah.
not. See, that's when you start understanding all these moving parts and
Right.
how decisions are so important, right?
Right.
I mean, I think the mind subconsciously makes 20, 30,000 decisions a day. And I think just on food and clothes, it's like 200-300 decisions a day we make.
Mhm.
So, I mean, once you start realizing how powerful decisions, choices, once
Yeah.
it's made on the domino effect that it causes, and so now I say no to the wrong things and yes to things like this.
Yeah.
And I remember I was uncomfortable when I was in the car. Yes, I was uncomfortable, but I know that uncomfort is growth, and I know comfort is the enemy.
I appreciate you sharing that.
So
Yeah.
yes, I do.
appreciate
So now,
you being here. Yeah.
so now I chase anything that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You think I like going to accounting classes or anything like that? No.
yeah.
Business statistics? No. But now I know that, I'm going to chase that pain.
Yeah.
I'm chasing the pain first. I'm not chasing. Before I was a man that just chased pleasure.
And you're constantly challenging yourself to get better.
Constantly. And just that self-actualization, the desire to become who I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And just like, I want to give back, just like you are, the
Yeah.
way your company's doing one day. Because I think, I don't know where I read this, but that the rent on this earth is, giving back. That's what we should do as human
Yeah.
beings.
What legacy do you want to leave?
Yes.
And live, right?
And just to live life.
Yeah.
I'm tired of death.
Yeah.
I'm just death, and you're in prison, and you see, or prior to prison, or everything was just death, suicide, homicide,
Yeah.
robbery. I'm just anything that was just destructive. I was just sick and tired of it.
So you talk a lot about education, learning, forward growth. transformation. How, just because the focus is obviously, within Project Rebound. So this year in this house, how much has that increased it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just to wake up in the mornings, and I work out every day. And once I'm done my workout, I stand and I watch the sun come up, and I see the color of cotton candy coming up over the Sierras.
Yeah.
In the clouds. Each day I see a Monet or a...
Is that in the backyard there?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
your house.
so each time I'm back there, and I'm jogging. Once I'm cooling down, I'm jogging for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the Sierras. And I'm like, I got to pinch myself sometimes.
Yeah, thankful.
Grateful, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, yes. And just like, so, you hear about Project Rebound or the Sierra House or the Gentile, you just like, you hear the name, right? But I remember reading Emma for the Dr. Hughes for the first time, and I finally okay, now you put a face to that. And just like I'm meeting you today, you know, and then you finally see the support, because when you're in there, you'll hear. How
does that make you feel, right? Because this is my whole vision and mission for being involved in Project Rebound, to know you have support, like Jason, like Dr. Hughes.
Yes, because
like us.
So the main thing is like I belong. You know, I mean, now I finally feel like family. You know what I mean? You got your immediate family, then you got your and it's just like people care. Yeah. You know, if you're willing to live right and live by principle and to help others and to really live with genuine love, because love is a word that we just throw around, right? But when you actually see the action and it's just not words, you can see. I'm in a building. I could imagine all the different deals that had been done, and moving up numbers and finance, whatever it is to get that where I'm at now, right? And so that's why I take it very serious with the guys there. Hey, let's not mess this up. Let's not bring alcohol. Special. Let's not bring drugs. This is important. This is a flagship house. We gotta take care of this and not really take it as a game or just like, hey, you know what? We're gonna turn it into a party house. That's like something that it's just against my principles. Yeah. So just to have all this support, it's just like it's a laundry list of people that I've met that just helped me. Yeah. Some more than others, but it's just amazing the humanity, right?
Yeah, I love it.
The human, the part of being human, right? Yeah. It just like, because when I was in prison, you hear, there's no programs out there. You got a school of thought that, no, and those are the guys that look at the glass half empty, right?
They believe that, huh?
Yeah, and then other guys is like,
it's easier to think that,
right? Easy way out.
Yeah, and then there's guys that are like, oh no, there's programs.
Just like it was easy to stay in your car and drive back home. You came in and you leaned into the hard way.
And the word easy, I try not to. If it's easy, no. You know what? No. Yes.
So just to kind of wrap us up here with two last questions. If there's any takeaways for the audience to understand Project Rebounds and the advantages of it and what you're doing, then that leads into my last question of what does the future look like, right, for you? You're on this 1 year path within Project Rebound. You're on this new life path, which arguably has been the last 5 years, right? What does that look like? And then the takeaways that the audience, because we want more people aware of these organizations that are helping.
Second chances, the people, change is possible, right? The neuroplasticity in the brain can change, right? And if a person desires and wants change, you will find it, right? If the student's ready, the teacher will appear, and it comes to me in many forms, either a book, a person, or experience. But California, right? One of the richest economies in the world. I mean, we got more prisons than any other region in the world. I mean, what's wrong with that picture? I mean, we got to stop investing in the prisons and start investing into education. Right. And once that education, you start realizing one of the main subjects that really just did it for me was the psychology, the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and how it works, right? And how I use my limbic system and made all my decisions by emotion. And by understanding this, it really, that's a freedom that I found in prison that the way the brain works, right?
Right.
And then once you start changing your whole on how you do things, because it's in the little things that we do, right?
Yeah.
The little things. What time do you wake up? Do you eat this? Do you do that? Do you what words do you use? It's all these little things that we don't even pay attention where the change, right? That's
Right.
where the change happens. But the support, it's amazing. I mean, I just would never. I'm not supposed to be in university. I'm not supposed to be. I just got my associate degree last month.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And
That's
I-
amazing.
No, it's coming. It's coming in the
okay.
mail.
You got a
But
frame for it.
I was
Yeah.
never supposed to graduate from college. I was never supposed to leave my neighborhood. I was never supposed to. I'm not supposed to be here. I should be in prison right now. My EPRD, which is the earliest possible release date, was 2034. That's the next decade. I'm not even supposed to be here right now. But education did that for me.
Right.
It opened that, not only the prison, but the prison in the mind that I had lived for the rest of my life. But, companies such as yourself and programs like Project Rebound,
Yeah.
it just leads you like, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And once I put my ego to the side, took my mask off, and humbled myself, and things started changing. And I appreciate anybody that has, and I know some people, they don't like me for my past, and
Right.
that's okay.
Right.
I'm okay with that. I'm not going to get angry because somebody don't like me.
Right.
Or
Or give you a second chance.
Yes. So, and the thing is that I have no control over anybody. I only have control for myself. And all I can do is do my best, right?
Yeah.
And this experience has just been something like a new life.
Yeah.
I got chance. I got hope.
Mm-hmm.
Got a spark in the dark. I went from living in the shadows to rising like a star.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Well, I can tell you, Abel, you have a lot more than hope in your future. You have a clear path forward.
yes.
Hope is something you wish for, and I think you have it. You have it thought out. You're putting in the work, and you're getting educated. And that was the biggest thing I took away from our conversation, is that education component, which is within a good environment, within the right settings, surrounded by the right people.
Yeah.
And that education just keeps increasing and gets more powerful and powerful, right? Because you're itching to find more education.
And what's wonderful too about this space is you have all of the other people living there
Right.
doing the same things. They're living a sustainable life. They are doing community engagement. They are doing volunteer work. They are studying. There aren't goals that are being distracted by other things.
Right.
So the power of that academic space, and that's the same thing in our Magnolia House, which is our new women and children's home that's starting up now, is like minds do like things.
Right.
And this is an example of an
Well, he speaks,
individual.
about the influences in our story, and now these other influences that want to get better too, and then better others. Now you got the right influences together, pushing that path forward.
Yeah. And
So it's really powerful.
This is public safety. This is what makes our society safer. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, I had read in Henry David Thoreau's 1,000 hackings at the branches and leaves of evil. It only takes one to the root, right?
Yeah.
And that's what education, it gets down to the root.
Mhm.
Instead of just trying to change my behavior with just chop. If I
It's
go
all
out,
the fluff up top, right? We
Yes,
got to
no, you
get to
gotta
the root of
get
the
down to
yeah.
the root, and that is education, right? And
It's amazing.
all the support out here is what makes this possible in a safer society.
Yeah, I
Right.
love it, man. Well,
Thank you, Abel.
I appreciate the story, Abel, Jason.
You're
For them
welcome.
to get
Thank you.
more informed on Project Rebound, do you have certain links that you can tell the audience?
Yes, go to Fresno State University.
Yeah.
And click on Project Rebound. You'll find us there, and or reach out to Gentile Real Estate. You will find us.
Yeah, big advocate of it. So we appreciate you guys. We always looked forward to the
Thank
Thanksgiving dinner that
Oh,
we
yeah.
sponsored.
that was amazing too. That was my first Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask about that.
So
'cause you
yes,
mentioned
so I wanted to say that was like when I ate that. So when that happened, when I took the first bite, yeah, I cried. Right,
Oh, man. Yeah.
it'd been years since I had a meal like that. And,
Well,
that was
it warms my heart that we
yes, that was
for your viewers, so you know what happened was the money that you donated to us. We ended up working with Marie Calendars.
Yeah.
They gave us a phenomenal deal.
Oh, good.
I didn't think we were going to be able to get it off, but we did, and it was incredible. We played bingo. We
That's amazing.
had a video of the first 7 years of Project Rebound, which was just bringing everything together. We were so blessed to have all of the students be able to participate who were available. Everyone left with a little plate to go home.
I love it. But there's more than just, funds that I donated or houses I'm donating.
Are you donating a house, Nico?
I think so. I like to hope so. It's still there. But there's other people can do. I'm taking away, I can donate books. Seeing how powerful. Abel, I am so impressed by your wisdom, and that you're not born with that. You have to go seek that education. But there's more that people can do. You could donate books. There's so much need, is what I'm trying to get through to the audience of.
Another thing that we just had a family do is set up a rolling donation, which turned into a self-fulfilling scholarship.
Oh, wow.
So
scholarship program.
yes. So we're for a Project Rebound student, actually two. It's a sustaining over time every semester, a gift that we then have an application for.
And something amazing that you do, Jason, is I stay up to speed with all the students and how they're doing. I thought I remodeled the house pretty well, and then Jason comes to me with this business plan that, hey, one of our students is an actual architect. He drafted up some renderings for your front yard. Would you mind if we just redo it and make it super drought friendly? Yeah, so we'll show you guys some clips here in the near future of the front yard, but. Man, so great having you, Abel.
Thank you, Nico.
We appreciate you.
And I also appreciate. I remember one day I was getting bit by mosquitoes.
Oh
yeah, and then so you got me a mosquito trap.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
Some screens.
We want to take care of you guys.
Yeah, so thank you. I
it's that Pawnee Basin in the back.
Yes,
that gives you the view, so you don't have the houses behind you. So
it's a trade-off,
the
right?
window, they wouldn't get in.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nico.
Yeah.